We're going to tell you which current team in a playoff position will not be playing in October on today's Locked On MLB Squad.
Step up to the plate. It's the Locked On MLB Squad Show, sponsored by Game Time. From the Dodgers to the Astros, the Mets to the Rangers, and everyone else in the league, with the experts of the Locked On Podcast Network bringing you the most comprehensive breakdown of all the action around the horn. We're coming in spikes up, no hurt feelings allowed, so squad up.
Welcome into the Locked On MLB Squad Show. My name is Jeff Carr. I am one half of Locked On Reds and the channel manager of the Locked On MLB channel, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. We got a good host of hosts here from the Locked On MLB channel to join us on the MLB Squad. We got Gary Morgan from Locked On Pirates, Jeremiah Geiger from Locked On Marlins, Jeff Ellis and Justin Latta from Locked On Guardians, and the man himself, Sully from Locked On MLB. And we got a whole host of things to talk about because we're now into June, which means it's clear who's going to be playing in October, right? And some of the teams that are currently in playoff positions are clearly not going to be playing in October, right? And then some of the other teams that are clearly not in positions to play in the playoffs right now will definitely be playing in October, right? So we're going to tell you who those teams are going to be on today's Locked On MLB Squad that is brought to you by Game Time. Download the app and use the promo code Locked On MLB to save $20 off your first purchase. All right. It's obvious, right? There's a couple of teams that are currently in playoff positions that have no business being it. We call them frauds, right? There's a couple of frauds in there, I'm sure.
The Dodgers.
The Dodgers, yes, the
yes,
Dodgers.
Right?
Probably not them.
No.
Not really feeling the Cubs. Not the. Do we believe in the Tigers? The Tigers were in a playoff spot for most of the year last year, and then I just what are we thinking here, Sully?
I think if there's, as I'm keeping track of the summer score, which some people say shows that I have a loser mentality, that I keep track of that. Like that's one person said. One person said to me, there can only be one satisfied fan base at the end of each year. And I would say, you sound like a great dad. But of the last year, Minnesota was a playoff team for most of the year before they fell off a cliff and the Tigers said, hold my beer. The Twins have been playing very well and winning a bunch of games. And as we're recording this, not to date it, but they're up 6-0 on the Don't Call Us the Sacramento A's. They're winning a bunch of games that, to be fair, they should be winning. They should be winning. But I also believe there's a team. I'm not their biggest believer right now. I think they're done exactly what you want them to do for the first third of the season. They got off to a rotten start. They went on that great win streak. But if there is a current playoff team that I could see possibly falling off a map, I like Kansas City more than I like Minnesota overall. So I would have to say Minnesota would be the team that I would say would fall off. And I think that shows my obvious anti-Minnesota bias.
It does show your obvious AL Central bias, which we got a couple of folks here from the AL Central.
That's true.
What say
That's
you
true.
guys, Justin and Jeff?
I would say in the AL Central, I think Justin doesn't realize that he's muted right now and is just talking a whole lot.
Yeah.
Justin still doesn't know he's muted.
Got to mic
good.
mute.
Got to
drop a dollar in the jar.
That's good.
There. Yeah.
Right,
That's all right. Go for it.
Kangaroo court over here. Yeah, we know Sully hates the Midwest. We've established that very clearly on the show. Sully is a hater of the Midwest. But no, I mean, even you look at the Guardians. Like, I hate to say it, that the Guardians are the only team in a playoff spot right now that have a negative run differential. That's always a telling story sometimes. But they played better. They've been up and down. But that run differential does tell an interesting story.
It does. I also say this, like I know Sully's talking about Kansas City. Kansas City is a team that looks kind of different from a year ago. They've got two guys who are above league average in terms of their offense. Bobby Witt is very good, but he's not MVP this year. He's about 40 points lower in his WRC Seth Lugo's been average when he's been healthy, and they've dealt with a lot of injuries. So I know Kansas City isn't in, but I actually think Kansas City is kind of a long shot with some of what we've seen. If we're talking Centrals, I think the Cardinals are the playoff team that has a lot of indicators of being very lucky and has a long, rich history of imploding in the second half.
I don't want to talk about 2021 with the Cardinals, but I know that they know how to be annoying. I'll put it that way. But I mean, it kind of feels like we're looking at wild card teams. Are there any division leaders, Gary or Jeremiah, that you look at and you're like, I think they could fall off?
I think the Seattle's one where I just look at them and I think I've watched these guys play for so long and they have these hot stretches, but towards the end they start to fall apart. And Houston's right on their tail. Texas's offense has been awful to start the season, but they got Jacob deGrom, who looks just as good as ever, and Nathan Eovaldi, although he's on the IL. I don't think Seattle is definitely a lock to be a division winner. And in what could be a tight American League, you go cold, you lose 8 or 10 in a row. Who knows what could happen? They could fall off and end up missing the playoffs. It's a long shot. I like Seattle. It's nothing against them, but for division leaders, that's the one I'm looking at in particular.
That's where I was going to go too. I think Houston's just a lot more seasoned. Seattle is probably the one that I could see falling off. And the other one that maybe is shaky is the Mets. I think the Phillies could overtake them. Overall, the Phillies still have one of the better pitching staffs in baseball and a few in reserve that I'd like to see.
Are the Braves too far? And I kind of want to get into them just a little bit, but just hanging in the NL East right now, like, are the Braves too far back to make that a 3-team race, or is it just a 2-team race, Phillies and Mets?
If you're asking me, I feel like they're probably more in the wild card range. I think it's a lot to think that the Phillies and Mets are both going to let them back into the race that easily. You know, they still have to beat those teams, and right now they're not playing like they're going to beat those teams. Got Acuna back, but it takes a minute for him to get his legs back under him and look like himself, and the pitching just hasn't come together for them like it always seems to.
Alex Anthopoulos always makes interesting moves at the deadline, but that system doesn't have a whole lot of prospects to make any moves at this point. So I don't know if they can continue to try to do that. Maybe Eddie Rosario wants to come back for a third time and try that again. I don't know. But the Diamondbacks, they're going to lose Corbin Burns.
Yeah.
And we think the Cardinals are going to fall off. And I don't buy the Giants around. So I think that the field is open for the Braves to make a comeback. I do think there's room for them to edge into the wild card, because I don't think the Giants and the Diamondbacks are going to hold steady.
The thing about the wild card in the NL, though, that's really interesting to me, all 4 teams that are in it right now, the Phillies, Padres, Giants, and Cardinals, they're all teams that will happily add at the deadline. Yeah. I mean, the Cardinals, they probably planned to rebuild going into this season, couldn't pull off those 2 big trades that they were trying to make. I'd imagine they're thinking of changing course right now. They're hanging right in there in the NL Central. They're not that far behind the Cubs.
I'll make a comparison, though, that in 2021, the Chicago Cubs were dying to take 2 sticks of dynamite and blow up the most loved team in Chicago Cubs history. And they got off to a great start. And the nanosecond, I think they went on a 2-game losing streak, they immediately sold off the entire team for parts. So it wouldn't surprise me if St. Louis goes on even a modest losing streak. This is a time, remember, this is the middle third of the season where you have to make real decisions. Now, last year, I had egg on my face because the Mets were on the outside looking in, and it was a seller's market. And I said, Mets, you could get 3 or 4 blue chip prospects right now and build for the future. And they didn't, and they wound up getting to within 2 wins of the World Series. And I was wrong about that. But a couple of years ago, the Angels didn't rebuild, and they didn't re-sign Ohtani, and they traded away good prospects to get Lucas Giolito. They were a feathered fish. You have to make this decision right now. Do you think not only you're going to make the playoffs, and are you going to be better than Los Angeles, Philadelphia, or New York, or Chicago for that matter, in the postseason? And if you're not, you might just have to bite the bullet and say, this is our chance to rebuild. But you have instances like the 06 Cardinals where they stumbled into the two teams that stumbled into the postseason, the 06 Cardinals, who actually weren't very good down the stretch, and the 2011 Cardinals, who only got in because the Braves collapsed. That's the only reason they made the playoffs. And those are the two teams that won it all.
Yeah, but you can't tell some of us we're not allowed to be happy about backing into the playoffs with a team that's nowhere near as good as Los Angeles, or I quit.
No.
I think it's too early with the expanded playoff. Like the expanded playoff, when you have that extra team, I think it changes the entire dynamic of how these teams approach the deadline. I know it does for a lot of the smaller market teams. For example, if the Marlins or the Pirates were hovering around 500 with the extra playoff, you might go out and you buy. Whereas before, maybe you don't have the horses to get it done and you sell. I look at a team like the Royals, for example, because I know, Jeff, you were talking about them. I'm kind of the opposite opinion. I look at the call up they made with Caglione, and I think it's exciting. It provides a spark. And I'm looking for them to make a big trade at the deadline to add to this offense, because Reagan's was bad before the injury. I think that his injury was really affecting him. But Noah Cameron is a young starter who shows a lot of promise. And Lugo's okay. I think the Royals are going to make some moves because I really like the young core they got with Bobby Witt and Pascatino. I just think they need one or two more guys in order to make a run at the division.
I like where you're going with this because, as you mentioned, this wild card makes it so that if you think you're done, you might be wrong. Get the supplies you need from the site that's made for the skilled trades. Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical, you can get exactly what you're looking for with just a few clicks over at supplyhouse.com. They've got over 200,000 parts available for you to choose from. They've got over 400 top brands that provide them, and they've got real people to talk to every time so that you know you're getting exactly what you need, exactly when you need it. They ship from coast to coast, and it's very easily delivered. Plus, they have this Trade Master program that if you sign up for it, you can get a dedicated phone line and free shipping on every order. Supply House makes it so much easier for you to get your job done. Check out supplyhouse.com, and you can use the promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. Plus, join that Trademaster program today and see how easy it can be to get the right parts with supplyhouse.com. Your favorite baseball team has a daily podcast on the Locked On MLB channel. Make sure you check them out, whether you're a Pirates fan, a Marlins fan, a Guardians fan, a Reds fan, or even an A's fan, or even I don't know, if you like the Cardinals and you just, maybe you're just you just really like annoying things. Anyway, the Cardinals, they have a podcast too. JD does a great job. I'm not talking trash on JD, but I am talking trash on the Cardinals because boo the Cardinals. Anyway, we talked about a couple of teams that could make a playoff run who aren't currently in the playoffs. And there's so many teams right now that are so close, whether you're looking at the American League or the National League. And because of that expanded wild card, it's really hard to tell who a buyer or a seller is really up until the deadline. I mean, honestly, if the deadline were like in the middle of August, that might actually help you determine one or two more teams. But there's just so much time and there's so much space when it comes to the playoffs. Like right now, you've got 6 teams within 5.5 games of the National League wild card, and then only the A's, Orioles, and White Sox are greater than 4.5 games out of the American League wild card. And kind of like Justin, like you mentioned, the Guardians have a negative run differential, but so do the Blue Jays and the Royals, who are right there on the cusp of joining that wild card taking a wild card spot. So there's so many opportunities out there for teams like the Rays or the Rangers or the Red Sox. As much as Red Sox fans are just hating life right now, they've got a shot.
Yeah. Now the question I have for you, and by I mean you, I mean everyone listening to my voice right now, is if you take there are two teams that went into this year with some pretty high expectations. And they have one thing in common. The last two seasons, both of them employed Corbin Burns. The Orioles, a lot of people thought had a shot to win the division, especially after the Yankees lost the Jenga pieces of Soto and Garrett Cole. And the Diamondbacks were very good last year and missed the playoffs by a single game and added Corbin Burns to the mix. If Burns is out, and right now the Diamondbacks are looking up at the Giants and Padres and Dodgers and the Cardinals and the Brewers and the Phillies. I mean, the chances of them taking one of those spots is extraordinarily slim. And even though the American League is an absolute traffic jam, the Orioles are they've won their last 3 games, which might be fool's gold. But should those teams, because it's less than 2 months before the trade deadline, should those two teams think long and hard about not selling off their best players, but selling off parts? Because you're probably not going to get a blue chip, but that could, you get a good young prospect that could allow you to bring up one of your top prospects. There's a lot of things of depth in it, and getting something other than nothing. Should the Rocks and the Orioles be looking now as like, we're probably gonna have to sell? I mean, I think the Diamondbacks are a situation. I meant to say the Diamondbacks and the Orioles. The Diamondbacks, the idea that they going to leapfrog, they're not going to leapfrog San Diego or Philadelphia, and that's 2 of the wild card spots right there. They're not going to, the Mets and the Phillies and the Dodgers and the Padres, they're not going to leapfrog all of them. So that means their best hope is the final wild card spot. And are they better than the Giants, Cardinals, Braves, or Brewers? I don't know.
I think you have to look at beyond that, because I think like with Arizona's case, you have the owner who is older, who was willing to spend a lot of money, because like that matters. It's like San Diego. When San Diego has not spent as much because the previous owner before he passed away, when you have an owner who's all in, I don't know if Arizona is going to be able to consider a sell-off, or if it's going to be a press to the wall situation. And I think on the other side of it with Baltimore, you have a new owner. Baltimore, I think, did the absolute worst thing you can do in free agency, which is if you go into free agency, you want to buy from the top. You don't want to go shop. I love Aldi's in real life, but you don't want to do the Aldi's version of free agency. And that's what Baltimore did. They spread it all around and got a bunch of off-brand. And that never works. It never works. That is not the way. It's the worst approach. But you have a GM there who has a new owner, and he just spent $40 million of his money and just went and flushed it down the toilet. So can he sell off those pieces, or is he in the, like, it's the same thing. If Toronto falls apart, that's a front office on the hot seat. So sometimes it's not even about where they're going. It's like, it's the pressures they're under. Like, I don't think Mike Elias, I don't know why I made it sound like he's the former Devils lineman there, but can he sell? I don't know. I think there's a lot of pressure for these people in the management, and I think sometimes that's the picture. I think the biggest problem for all these teams is there's going to be like 4 sellers, and no offense to our great Marlins host up here, but it's like they've already sold everything that isn't nailed down. Like, it's not even Aldi's anymore. We're at like the dollar store. No, they're building towards something, but they've already sold.
We're at Goodwill.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think it's going to be a hard deadline. And we've seen that the last few years. It's been a little more tricky, but I think we're going to see that expanded.
I have a team picking up their waiver claims. So,
yeah. I wanted to touch on Baltimore really quickly, because to me, the issue with the Orioles, because they won 100 games last season. What was it? High 90s or 100 right on the dot. It was up there. And they didn't invest in pitching. And it came back to bite them, and everything went downhill. They prospect hug like no other team I've seen before. Prospect hugging is a problem. I'm starting to see it with my own fan base, fans talking about, let's trade Kyle Stowers. And I said, we just traded for him at the deadline. You don't trade away talent when you get production. I did a whole rant in the final segment for tomorrow's pod. The Orioles did the same thing. Colton Cowser is finally up, but you have Colby Mayo, who's been in AAA for 3 years. I mean, when you go into a season with a rotation with Dean Kramer, a 48-year-old Charlie Morton, maybe 68 years old by now, I mean, there's some issues there. And you fire your manager, he wasn't the problem. They have to take a good look within and say, what is our organizational philosophy? How can we get back to being a competitive team, much like the Royals were after getting their rebuild done? They establish a core. That's what I want the Marlins to do.
The Orioles had a really, really logical place to go with their trades, too. They have a couple guys that are getting close to the end of that team control, like Mountcastle and Mullins, and, they let Hayes go, and obviously he's doing great for Cincinnati. So, but
when he's healthy.
But you know what I mean? Like, they had some logical places to go. And you could even argue they've got like that stud catching prospect. There's a piece they could use to get pitching because they've got Rushman, or vice versa. If you think he's the sun, moon, and stars, move Rushman. You have to move something that you've developed. Pirates are in the same place, only opposite. We got all the pitching in the world and absolutely no hitting. We did the same thing. Prospect hugged the hell out of pitchers, didn't get any hitters.
Yeah, and it feels like it's a half team build. I find it intriguing about the Orioles is that the only two teams that have worse run differential. We talked a lot about run differential in this squad show, but the only two teams that have worse run differentials are the A's and the Rockies. Sorry, not the A's and the Rockies. I got that mixed up. The Rockies I got that right. The A's. The A's and the Rockies.
It's that 10th win. We can't get the Rockies off our mind.
Yeah.
Courtesy of your Miami Marlins.
But I know that, like, when it comes to this Orioles team, they're just so baffling that they fell off from 91 wins to this point. But I'm with you. Like, I feel like they can't just stand pat at the deadline. There's got to be a few moves here that they make. It maybe isn't that big sell-off. They could probably just trade Mullins and maybe Tyler O'Neill and they'd be okay. And maybe Mountcastle.
O'Hearn.
But Tyler O'Neill's having the kind of, he's not helping because he's having the kind of season that nobody's going to want to pay that. And the Orioles aren't eating that contract. They're not eating part of that contract. That's not that kind of team. So they've kind of boxed themselves in. I think they devalued some of their assets, and then they made some bad signing decisions. That they needed to invest everything in pitching. They were close. They got close to the sun. They burned their wings off, and they didn't do anything to get back in the dance this year.
They invested in older pitchers or guys who couldn't strike out guys in Japan. Cleveland added like 8 starters, and some of them are hoping, some aren't. But yeah, pitching is the hardest thing to find, and I don't know Baltimore's pathway to success this year.
Rich Hill was out there for him. They could have gone Rich Hill.
Everyone else has.
It's going to be interesting to see. I mean, to get into that final wild card spot, it feels like you just need a really good 2-week stretch, and don't fall too far before you hit those 2 weeks, and then you're golden. But how far are some of these teams going to fall? The Orioles kind of feel like they may have already fallen a little bit too far there. But coming up next, there's a couple of interesting statistics out there that I want to get your takes on, because things can get real weird real quick when you look at some of these teams that just aren't playing up to snuff. There are a lot of things in life I know about, like batting average and on-base percentage, slugging percentage, and ERA. Okay, those are mostly baseball statistics. And that's why when it comes to finances, I need help. And Monarch Money is a great help to me because it puts all of my accounts in one place. I've got my debit account, I got my credit account, I got my investment accounts, of which there is at least one of them. But they're all in one place, and I just need one password to see it all on one screen. I'm not just financially surviving anymore. I'm financially thriving. Plus, they can help you track your spending so that you know that you spent too much on Taco Bell last month. And I'm working on it. But Monarch Money is making it easier for me to work on it. Check out Monarch Money today. Go to monarchmoney.com and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB to save 50% off your first year. Start financially winning with Monarch Money. That's monarchmoney.com and the promo code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. There is an amazing league-wide show that covers every single game, every single night called Locked On MLB Game Night, but there's an even better league-wide show hosted by our man Sully that coming up tomorrow. I know you got a lot to talk about, especially when it comes to the Rockies becoming the last and final Major League Baseball team to win double-digit ball games.
We've all
That's
got
my music right there, Jeff. That's my cue. If there's Rockies talk, I will appear from the shadows.
The Hunter Goodman show has
one
arrived.
Paul Francis have to steal from another Paul Francis there in Sully, as we do. But hey, 10 wins. Come on.
I love it. Hunter Goodman. I don't think that second home run's landed yet.
Nope. Jeremiah, I know that the rarity that I get to come on and have some fun at the expense of someone else on this show instead of being, it's bad when every major thing is talking about the Rockies, national platform, because it's just bad. That's when it's really bad.
But I know Sully's got all things Rockies for you covered on this next episode. Yeah, Rockies.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm very anti-Rockies, though. I have a strong anti-Rockies bias. So we're trying to get around that. So
I know you're going to list all of the things that you're against. Although that, again, 30 minutes. Keep the show around that time. But it's going to be interesting
now?
Right, it's moved off of the Midwest, I think. But I know this. I want to know, because I know we know, when it comes to weird statistics in our teams, who's got a weirder statistic than this? Because I feel like this is really weird. After 6 innings, if the Cincinnati Reds are trailing, they lose. Period. In the year of our Lord 2025, the Reds are 0-24 when they're trailing after 6 innings. Like, who's got a weirder stat than that? That just blows my mind.
Pirates have only won one like that. So
Cleveland has won 32 times when they have the most runs.
The Rockies have 4 8-game losing streaks this season. The Rockies are off to historically the worst. No team has lost 50 Major League Baseball games before winning 10 of them in Major League Baseball history until the 2025 Colorado Rockies. I'm not going to lie, in terms of and Jeff, that's a crazy stat there. I have seen the Rockies make more bad history throughout this month and throughout 2025 and from the previous seasons that there's a lot of weird Rockies statistics that can be. Jeremiah, you were just telling me that the Rockies are horrendous on the road when they're away from Coors Field against right-handed pitching. They're horrendous, which isn't that big of a surprise. But there is as crazy as that Reds one is. I could probably the Rockies have given up the most infield hits in baseball this year by like a wide margin.
It's an annoying statistic.
It's weird. The Rockies are bad, but they're also weird and unlucky in some ways too. It's definitely not most the bad part's the main thing, but I don't know. I've heard quite a few crazy ones from the Colorado side.
I think the Marlins' strangest stat was that they were the first team in Major League Baseball to let the Rockies win their 10th game of the season. That's where I'm going to go.
The Rockies beat the Yankees.
It's true.
They have some good wins. They beat the Padres earlier.
After being shut out, and a shutout for an entire 3-game series, including a game that was 21-0. Jeff,
you gotta love that. Yeah, that's the crazy thing too. Like, just talking about run differential, the Reds have a positive run differential of positive 29. They beat the Orioles 24-2, and they beat the Rockies. What was the final score of that one? 21-3, I think. And then they beat the Rangers. I want to say the Rangers, it was 13-2. And so the fact that you take those 3 games away, they have a negative run differential is just it's so weird. It's so weird to watch baseball when your team is supposed to be good and they aren't.
By the way, my favorite weird, I guess it's not really a weird stat, but it's a first time It happened. We're recording this, pulling back the curtain a little bit. We're recording this on the second day of June. And today, of all teams, the Angels became the first visiting team in history to go to Fenway Park and hit 3 home runs in the top of the first. It's not, think of all of the mashers that the Bronx Bombers, the Chicago Hitmen of the late 70s. You got the McGuire and Canseco, Bash Brother A's. You have those great Seattle, all the great lineups you've had. The roided up Texas Rangers squads that had Palmeiro, Canseco, Juan Gonzalez, and Ivan Rodriguez. They didn't do that. But this year's Angels team was the first team.
Joe Adell.
Wow.
Joe Adell. Now, one of them, and Mike Trout was one of them. Mike Trout was back.
He hit the hell out of that ball.
That actually went into that weird rock formation in the center field in Anaheim, which is really impressive because they were in Fenway, and that's how far that home run went. But
I got one more for you here, Jeff. The Rockies and Scotty Scheffler tied for wins in May.
I've got a fun one.
That might take the cake. That's a good one.
I can't top that.
To throw out. So Cleveland is known as the pitching factory, known for all the pitchers, known for all of this. You can look at me. I am not the youngest man here by a far margin. The Cleveland baseball organization has not had a no-hitter in my lifetime. The last no-hitter was a few months before I was born. There's been no no-hitter in, I'll be 44 this summer. There's not been a no-hitter in 44 years.
Wow.
It was Len Barker.
The entire org?
Yeah, the entire.
Wow.
Well, there's been in the minors combined ones, but not in the major league level. So 44 years without a no-hitter at the major league level.
Dang.
I think I only saw one combined one from the Pirates. I have a fun stat about a guy that everybody likes. Andrew McCutchen just tied Roberto Clemente for the all-time, or I think the third most home runs ever as a Pittsburgh Pirate this week.
Cool.
So
wow.
Pretty good stuff.
Shout outs to Kutch, man.
Yeah. Two great.
Someday they're going to take someday they're going to take an Andrew McCutchen decal off the wall at PNC.
I'm sure they will, yeah. A lot of seltzers out there to sell.
When are you calling up Bubba Chandler? That's what I want to know.
Probably when we need them. I
You
mean,
don't
like,
need 'em
in all-
now?
The pitching's not the problem with
in all,
pitching.
Right.
the pitching's not
He's
our problem.
got to be traded.
And I
got
got to be
to
honest.
trade him.
I know the national narrative is probably that this is manipulation, but I watched the kid pitch a lot. He's very wild. Very
Yeah,
wild.
I've watched him pitch a little bit. I know what you mean.
We're talking like a 4-inning starter up here if they bring him up. And I think he'll end up going back down. You don't like to do that with the top prospects. You like to really know they're ready. And right now, the Pirates got a nice stable of young starters I really want to see that are coming back from TJ, and it's time to get some innings for those guys too. I'm in no rush.
Can I just point out something? I teach in a school here in Los Angeles County, and a lot of the kids I interact with refer to TJ, and when they talk about Tijuana. So I really thought Gary said they got a bunch of pitchers coming back from Tijuana. I'm thinking like, what the hell are they doing in Tijuana? The season
Having
started.
a good time.
They'd all look like Doc Ellis when they got back, but yeah.
They were just waiting.
Hang out with Jake Taylor.
They were just waiting to welcome, I think, the New York Knicks on their way to their their vacation. Go Pacers. Anyway, that's where we're going in today's Locked On MLB Squad show. Thank you so much for checking out this. We talk about the league every single week from the perspectives of the Locked On MLB hosts around the channel. Make sure you join us next week. We got more on tap for you coming up on the Locked On MLB Squad. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day.